Good evening. Welcome to Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. If you're joining us via Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to comment during the public comment portions of the meeting. Just a moment, I would like for the, after we do the pledge, after we have a moment of silence, we're going to ask Mark Saxon to lead us in the pledge. Please stand. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, first item of business will be to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda submitted. Second.
Yeah, we have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item is statements and remarks from commissioners, from citizens. This is for anything not on the agenda for tonight. Anyone virtually? Thank you. Any statements or remarks from commissioners? A couple announcements for coming up in March. On March the 14th will be State of the County address. That'll be held at the Civic Center. Registration will be handled through the Chamber of Commerce. And also on March 21st will be our first town hall meeting of 2023. And the focus there will be the master plans that just came out of the Recreational Affairs Committee. We'll take more comment on those at that meeting as well. Next time is discuss recommendations to the UDC amendments for the compliance with House Bill 1405. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You have a memo before you. I'll briefly go through that with you and then answer any questions if you have any. House Bill 1405 became effective July 1st of 2022 as a revision to the state zoning procedures law with a grace period until July 1 of 2023. The provisions of the law that impact Oconee County primarily concern administrative approval authority as established in the UDC. Due to the recent Supreme Court decision, administrative decisions concerning variances and similar zoning matters that do not come before the Board of Commissioners currently are now considered quasi-judicial decisions. House Bill 1405 defines quasi-judicial in the zoning context and establishes requirements for quasi-judicial zoning decisions, including conducting a public hearing for each quasi-judicial action. Any zoning decision that comes before the Board of Commissioners is not quasi-judicial in nature. And the current process for public hearings with the Planning Commission and the BOC will continue and are in compliant with ZPL and House Bill 1405. So the options and recommendations out of several options for the UDC amendments to achieve compliance with House Bill 1405, staff recommends an approach that is based on the well-established approach of Planning Commission review and BOC decision. For this, the UDC would be amended to direct all zoning decisions, including minor variances, to the BOC. This would leave no decision at the administrative staff level that could be seen as quasi-judicial. Other options are to create a new appointed zoning board of appeals and adjustments with decision authority compliant to House Bill 1405. This would create a significant ongoing effort and requires many new appointed volunteers. Or to establish a new process for public hearings prior to administrative decisions. That's unclear as to how that would be structured. By far, the cleanest and most compliant approach seems to be the change that results in the BOC decision on all zoning matters. So the next steps would be following BOC confirmation of the recommended staff approach. Staff will identify all UDC sections that require amendments to redirect administrative decisions to the BOC and otherwise achieve compliance with House Bill 1405. And staff and consultants will then prepare the UDC text amendments drafts for BOC review and approval prior to July 1 of 23. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, so right now you have authority to grant variances for minor differences.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And if you're going to do that, continue with that, you'll have to have a hearing to do that.
That's right. Yeah.
If just be in compliance or come back to us.
Yeah, so there would be the whole legal advertising. It'd follow a ZPL procedure. So it's follow our current procedure of, advertising legals and then holding those public hearings.
because it's quasi judicial. The hearing would actually be more complicated than what y'all do, because there's a possibility of, putting a witness on a stand, both people there, ask any questions, almost like a deposition. And I just don't see how and it also would put Guy in the position where he really couldn't talk to citizens about what they were trying to do, because he would be, if he were doing it, he would be the hearing officer. So, and could anybody even send him something out? It's, the courts and the legislature have managed to make this horribly complicated when it shouldn't be. And a lot of it's because of court decisions, and I'll go ahead and say it, by judges and justices who never practice in this area of the law, so they don't understand what they've done to the counties and the cities.
So the procedure, if taking your recommendation, would be anybody who needed a variance would just go through, would they go through the planning commission still? or
No,
just
it
come
follow the
straight back?
current planning, the current variance procedure that
Okay.
we have in place.
All right, so that we, you still do the advertisements, everybody know what was happening, it would just be done in this
That's right.
form versus in
It
your
would,
office.
it would have to be done for all the minor, the variances that I could have done, so because I have flexibility on administrative variances such as 10% parking, plus or minus 10%. I can approve that administratively.
Still,
Yeah,
Okay.
those will have to go. No,
No,
not
they gone.
still. That's an example of what will now have to come to you.
okay.
Really, we've done the 9 of them in 2022. There's not that many, so.
It's just gonna take longer for a citizen to get through the process.
That's correct. Just a 2-month process as opposed to, a couple of weeks.
Any questions from commissioners? on that? Everybody all right with going with bringing everything here? Okay. Think
Thanks,
you move
sir.
forward with that.
Okay.
Next item is discuss award of the sanitary sewer modeling for the RFQ 2309-004.
Good evening, commissioners. I'll try to keep this brief. For quite a while now, Oconee County Water Resources has been seeking to do a sewer model. It's been probably an ongoing task of ours for 2 to 3 years now, and it's, to me, it's pretty important to finally get this milestone to where it's possible for it to happen. It's going to help us get better predictive models for future planning and also current status of our system. So for me, it's just pretty vital. We had 2 firms submit for this, and we got a good scope developed. One firm was quite a bit more qualified than the other, so the evaluation committee, or they said that they would prefer to go with the Kinley Horn. So we'd like to award this to Kinley Horn for a financial impact of $305,000. Now, this request would include all necessary budget amendments up to the contract amount for the life of the project.
So this sewer model would let, when a new development comes in, you would plug in that flow, you find choke points and
Find choke points, find if there needs to be lift station upgrades, expansion in our pipes. Yes, sir.
so I assume that'll have to be maintained as you add stuff. Is that,
Yes,
that'll be done in-house or we have to go back out to have maintenance of this? model?
As an option, there's a phase 2 to this project. There will be, I guess, an ongoing maintenance part of it.
Okay.
We will have an in-house seat to the program that they choose, or the software that we choose, to be able to do quick analysis if needed, which is something that I prefer to be able to have.
Yeah.
But no, long term, it'd probably better for it to be maintained by
Okay.
somebody not here.
Any other questions from commissioners?
So will they install meters at different locations to establish base flow and?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're gonna do about a 4-month flow meter test. And hopefully, and we'll actually, it could be longer because we gotta have a good wet weather event. It should be easy this
If
year.
they hurry up, yeah.
As soon as we put it out there, that's when we go in drought.
Yeah. So have y'all decided on, will this company actually do the metering and the?
It's gonna be stuff
Monitoring.
that they have a subcontractor that does it, that they work with.
Be all right for consent agenda on this? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Next time is discuss the mid-year budget amendments. Melissa?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here to present the request of your consideration and approval of mid-year budget amendments for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. The proposed amendments that I have for you are divided between general funds and then other funds. I'll kind of separate those categories for you, starting with our general fund requests. The first category of general fund requests are going to be balanced budget amendments, meaning that we'd like to increase particular revenues to cover additional expenditures. And starting with those revenues, insurance premium taxes have already been collected for FY23 in full. So we can confirm that those were collected in excess of budget, $722,780. Interest revenue is an anticipated amount for the fiscal year. With rising interest rates, I guess we get a little bit of a benefit from that. So we are estimating the interest revenue collections of $628,800. Prisoner housing fees were budgeted very conservatively in anticipation of a new contract and maintaining that contract, and we have done so. So we're anticipating increasing those by $244,360. Local option sales tax, and looking specifically at Costco revenues, we anticipate that we can increase those by $155,000 over what was originally budgeted. We did apply for and receive ARP funding in FY23, $50,000. Received a wellness contribution of $20,000 and a grant for travel in the amount of $540,000. So those additional revenues total $1,821,480. And so we'd like to propose the following expenditures from those additional revenues. We'd like to continue efficiency studies for the departments at a total of $40,000. Continue our scanning project with an additional $20,000 as we push to move into the administrative building, get as much documentation digitalized that we're not carrying a lot of storage with us to the new space. A payroll conversion and continuing payroll software costs of $20,000 covered by the wellness contribution mentioned. Add an additional $10,000 for supplies at operations that will assist us in preparing to move into the administrative building. We'd like to allow fleet maintenance to purchase a tire machine in the amount of $45,000. This will in turn allow us to bring those services internally as opposed to having to outsource those externally. So there's a cost savings associated with that as well. Upgrade of software in our GIS department of $6,000. Additional switches needed in IT for our servers in the amount of $10,000. Several line items for law enforcement equipment. We had the Frank Norris building renovation, and out of that came $52,600 in furniture. We did use small equipment funding for that furniture, and we would like to request to replenish those funds. We did have see this recurring thing throughout, some prior year equipment that finally made it in, some supply chain delays. So we have small equipment of $1,920 that was paid out of this year but ordered in previous year. We've also seen cost increases, so requesting $3,000 to cover small equipment cost increases for law enforcement. And we do have a request to purchase an additional 6 flock cameras for the investigations department at a cost of $17,100. For the jail, we have security camera upgrade for the courthouse that would integrate our current jail software and camera system with the courthouse security system. $26,700. We do have some equipment that's pushing 17-year lives now, washer and dryer replacements at the jail for $62,660, as well as water heaters at a cost of $11,000. And also some operational costs with the jail that kind of come along with having additional inmates housed with our contract. That includes medical services of $30,000, supplies of $55,000, water, sewer, and electricity costs at $19,000, and inmate food costs of $40,000. The Clerk of Courts has an indexing project we would like to continue to move forward in. So we're requesting an increase of $25,000. That lets them keep the momentum they've gained with indexing their files. Scheduling software for the Tax Commissioner's Office of $2,550. A small equipment purchase for the Coroner's Office at $3,000, as well as an increase in the coroner's travel of $540,000, which is directly offset by a grant that was received.
Well, not 540,000, is it?
540. No international travel. I'm trying to get my lines straight. Public Works project, the Mars Hill widening project, we'd like to allocate an additional 29,500 for that. Highway 53 roundabout at Ray's Church and Snows Mill. I'm currently still in the design process. We'd like to allocate an additional $70,000 requested for oversight of that project by GDOT. For planning, we have an additional 15,000 we'd like to allocate towards the comp plan. Plan review services of $150,000 and building inspection services of $45,000. Economic development, we do have bond issuances on the Costco project. We'd like to increase that $222,775, also offset by the local option sales tax increase. And then the last few items are transfers to support other funds out of the general fund. And those include transfers to sanitation for solid waste disposal prior year and small equipment of $106,360. Heritage Park improvements of $100,000. Fleet vehicle of $30,000, and in anticipation of inflationary increases for projects that are in our capital fund, $551,775. So those expenditures do total $1,821,480,000. We also have a category of assigned fund balance. So this is prior year revenues that were designated towards future years' uses. We did finish our FY22 paving contract after FY23 began, and that is complete, and it requires a budget amendment of $870,000 to release that assigned fund balance to cover that project completion. We also have some revenue neutral amendments coming from program fees that were collected for Parks and Recreation to cover increased costs they've seen for facilities, $10,500, and also to add an additional traffic deputy located at the OBP Park for additional cost of $7,000. And finally, for the general fund, I'm requesting a transfer from planning personnel down to plan review support as they outsource some of those personnel services for $100,000. Our other funds list is combining all other funds. The first few budget amendments come from fund balances, so revenues already collected. The water resources, we're requesting additional water meter purchases at $65,000 and an increase in our purchase sewer contract for $25,500. And special revenue, we would like to use funds for $7,000 small equipment purchase for Fire Station 7. And in SPOS 2021, in addition to the fiber line project to connect the admin building with the courthouse, there's some engineering that goes along with that. We'd like to pay from SPOS at $9,450. Again, we have assigned fund balance requests from capital. These are prior year supply chain issues where we finally received some orders from prior year. Consists of fleet vehicles, $175,435, and equipment at $11,565. And in addition to the Highway 15 roundabout at the admin building, we have some oversight and testing costs we'd like to add for $17,500. And the final group of amendments and other funds are revenue neutral. So revenues and expenditures totaling $887,825. Special revenue, we've collected contributions and donations that we need to budget to spend for. They're to be spent. So those include law enforcement events and funds as needed for law enforcement in the amounts of $4,950 and $20,000. For EMA and the EMS grant for equipment of $4,000 and an opioid settlement in the amount of $77,740. The last items we briefly discussed at the general fund. These funding sources is the general fund, and just a little bit of a reiteration. The Heritage Park improvements would come from the capital fund for $100,000. Fleet vehicle at $30,000. The inflationary expectation for projects, $544,775. And then to sanitation, solid waste disposal of $92,000. And the landfill improvement signal, which has been carrying forward as well, and hopefully at completion this fiscal year for $14,360. So I'd like to recommend these items for your consideration. I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from commissioners on this? We all right for consent agenda? All right, thank you. Any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Our next item is discuss the renewal for the iPaws messaging agreement with FEMA. CJ?
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you is a memorandum of understanding, or excuse me, memorandum of agreement with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Executing this will allow us to continue our iPaws messaging. This is messaging that we can conduct that's similar to, or the same software that conducts the Amber Alerts and civil emergency alerts. As far as what that puts us on the hook to do is to maintain security, which is handled by our software vendor, which is Code Red, and to conduct a proficiency demonstration each month in order to make sure that we know what we're doing and that the test can be successful.
Thank you. Any questions on this? Yeah, be all right for consent?
Yes.
Thank you. Any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Next item is discuss a change order for fire hydrant flow testing and inspection program. Welcome back.
Again, I'll try to be brief on this one. A few months back, we issued an award a contract for fire hydrant maintenance and painting to BOC Water Service. And we've also just learned a few, I guess about a month ago, that ISO is going to be coming this year. That original contract only took into account painting 20% of the system's hydrants. And with ISO coming, we feel like it'd probably be a good idea to go on and paint 100%. And it also would keep everything on a consistent paint scheme. It would only affect the year one of the contract, and it would be a change order of $123,000 and $123,120. For that'd be a total contract price of $263,120. This would also this request would also include all necessary budget amendments up to the contract amount for the life of the project. Any questions?
So will the 20% still happen after the one-time painting?
Yes.
Okay. So then we'll be on a consistent basis and everything will stay looking sharp.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
So when you start back next year with 20% being repainted, or it's going to wait for a certain period of time to paint last?
It's usually about a 3 to 5 year paint life. It just depends on kind of where the hydrant is at, kind of how much, so there much tree stuff like that. But yeah, it would be, we'd go on and do 20% next year too. Mainly, we probably be painting the bonnets next year. The bonnets, the actual top of the hydrants, because we'll be flow testing, and whatever color code, whatever flow is going to coordinate with the color. So does that answer?
So that was the question, was we're going to paint all of them in 1 year. And you mentioned to go back to the 20% every year after that. So I don't know if they need to be painted that quick.
We're mainly going to paint the bodies, and then we're going to also paint the current bonnet color. We're just going to repaint that. Now, with flows can change depending on what season and you're in, stuff like that, what your tank levels are. So next year, with the whatever bodies may need to be painted, we'll paint those. Mainly gonna focus on the bonnet color themselves. Cause
So-
flows, cause
so when
flows
they
will
flow-
change.
263 only includes the body?
No, sir, it'll include,
Include
it'll include the
bonnet
bonnet.
So there's gonna be the one, we're kind of behind on, some of them are looking pretty rough, if you know, so they're gonna paint everything with the existing flow rating. Then they'll go back the next year. If the body doesn't need painting, they won't paint it, but they'll change the color of the bonnet if necessary. And then the next year, it'll kind of be
Yeah.
a continual maintenance of the entire hydrant from this point on. So we don't have the $100,000 hit.
Yeah, I guess the maintenance plan is to do 20%, but that may not be necessary to do next year. It may be lower than that, just because it's already first paint.
Technically, less expensive than what you're asking for the bond.
Yes, yes. Yeah, this is a one-time hit. Well, for the next 5 years.
Any other questions? Let's be all right for consent.
Yes.
Thank you. Any public comment? Anyone virtually? Thank you. Do have need of a short executive session for personnel and litigation and real estate.
Make a motion to go into executive session, discuss personnel, real estate, and litigation.
Second.
You have a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. on? Well, we need a motion to go back in regular session.
So moved.
No, you can't.
We have a motion and second, all in favor? Mr. Saxon,
Motion adjourned.
Second.
we are adjourned.
Sometimes, because you can look